How did Gymshark win 2020? Consumer research. They worked with a test to learn more about their audience's changing habits, then pivoted their business to meet those needs. Visit askatest.com and use fast, accurate consumer research to get ahead. It's growth without guesswork. Hello and welcome to the D2C podcast. Today we are super lucky to be speaking with Eli Weiss, the Director of Customer Experience at Olipop. Eli is a D2C Twitter darling. He's got one of the most unique, fresh voices in that amazing world of D2C Twitter, and he is obsessed with customer experience, and he's had a lot of really great experience working at some really other interesting D2C companies. Olipop is a deliciously fizzy tonic that combines the benefits of prebiotics, plant fiber, and botanicals to support your microbiome and benefit digestive health. We just completed a 5-week series where we dove deep on every aspect of Olipop's marketing. And so we got tight with the founders there, as well as Eli, the Director of Customer Experience. Welcome to the D2C podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing great. It's so good to be here.
Nice. Let's start with customer experience. You are a customer experience specialist. You worked at Nugs, which is one of the most other interesting, like, darling D2C brands that I really love. And I just love to talk a little bit about your professional journey and how it's evolved your sense of what customer experience is and what it isn't.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome start. I started my career working at a bunch of really small startups. The largest that was like 7 people, smallest was myself and the CEO. And I was always a generalist, and I was doing pretty much everything from business development to marketing, strategy, investor relations, all that other fun stuff. But the first kind of real startup I joined was a Kickstarter brand that was selling luggage. And when I joined in 2016, they were 2 years delayed on their production of their product. So right off the bat, I jumped into a hell of a nightmare in terms of experience. And my hypothesis back then, without any real background in this, was the reason why people hop into a Kickstarter campaign is essentially to feel like they're creating and building and nurturing this brand with the company. And by not feeling like they're getting all the information, the lack of transparency was the inherent reason why they were frustrated. So that was my hypothesis. I was not scarred by all the other, CX roles before that. I was a fresh face in it. And in 2016, we came in and we created this plan of like, let's just shoot it straight and tell them we've been dishonest. Here's what's really going on. Here's what's been happening with the suitcase. Here's the amount of time we need to finish, and rally them up to kind of help us. And it was remarkable as to, these 1,500 people that wanted us to die and give them all their money back, all of a sudden were pushing us for the success of the brand. Fast forward a year and a half later, we launched a version 2.0 based on the feedback from these customers, and 90-something% of people hopped back in. And for me, that was like, this is amazing that just listening to customers is just the most drastic way to build brand affinity. And at that point, it wasn't a thing, right? Like, customer support was like the thing that Zappos did really well, but direct consumer brands weren't doing it. And what I saw back then was that on the SaaS side of things, in the 90s, there was this role created called customer success, which essentially was making sure that people are happy and kind of staying in touch with them to upsell. But what they realized back then was like, that's essentially how you make sure people are happy, by optimizing to reach out while they're still in a good place before everything hits the fan. And that was my 2016 hypothesis, that CX will be the next big thing, because as marketing costs go up, that's the best way to keep people happy and make sure that they repurchase. And I got really lucky that, in the middle of 2020, I got in touch with the Nugs team and had a fantastic experience building CX over there, and kind of got in touch with Olipop, and they shared a similar vision to what I had for CX. So it's been crazy ever since, but that's kind of my journey over the last 5 years.
Very cool. Now, how you say talking to customers? This sounds. I'm trying to think of all the technological implementations we could use to talk to customers, but you're actually just talking about picking up the phone or jumping into DMs and actually just chatting with people one-on-one. Can you talk a little bit about how your favorite methods for collecting this customer feedback?
Yeah, I think if we were to zoom out, there's obviously the quantitative data where, if you work with Gorgeous or Zendesk or whatever that tool is, getting that data that 99% of brands get, they tag, they do all that work, but then what happens with it? Like, that data essentially usually just goes into the garbage, or it gets sent every month. When I talk about customer experience, my vision is like, when you're in a small team, that data should be going to the correct places as it comes in. So aside from the once a week that I'll create a little deck to share out with the team on like what's happening, what's going on, there's also somebody from my team that's in every single meeting cross function, whether it's marketing or supply chain or our 3PL, et cetera, et cetera. We are constantly the voice of the customer in all these meetings and really relaying information we're hearing on the quantitative side. And then on qualitative, it's like, we send out these surveys, like brands always send out surveys like, oh, what does a customer think? Those are not the moments where customers share everything they're frustrated about. It's when they're just having a good time on Saturday, tagging you in a post on Instagram. And then when you reach out and you say, wow, where did you buy this? And they say, oh, I picked it up at a Kroger. How was the experience? Or, oh, I just ordered it online. And then by just having these really, really non-formal conversations, instead of creating a focus group that costs 10 grand with 100 people that won't talk to you unless you give them a gift card, with us, it's like finding people where they're at. They're willing to chat, they're willing to talk, and just having these conversations for us has been the best, kind of qualitative data.
That's awesome. Do you think brands are too quick? I come from the world of affiliate marketing. So people that had almost no attention to product. It was all about the marketing, all about scaling with the Facebook and, hitting these big numbers. And then I think a lot of these people who kind of came from this mindset were very quick to outsource their customer experience to a technological platform that could kind of help them do it, help them, set it and forget it. So they could focus on the parts of the business that they were most interested in. But would you say, to succeed in this brand world, you've got to almost start with bringing customer experience more in-house? Do you think that's a mistake people make?
I think it's an interesting point that I think about a lot because I have seen brands that obsess over customer experience and outsource it as an easy way to scale up or scale down when it comes into a seasonal situation. But I do think that there's a common misconception that customer experience, or brands like to call it whatever they want to call it, but this support experience, whatever it may be, is a way to put out fires. And I think that way of thinking about it is inherently wrong. Because when you think about it as a way to put out fires, it's obviously nothing you want to invest in. Versus if you think about it as a way to actually leverage it as a marketing channel, that to me is all of a sudden a very simple way to invest in it. And a couple of stories come to mind over the last couple of months at Olipop, as to how we leverage CX as a marketing channel. I mean, aside from, we've done some really fun surprise and delight initiatives where we've sent like 65 customers plants just to their door. You order soda twice, you don't expect to get a plant at your door with a nice card. But we've also seen, a story that really, really, really touched me a couple of months ago was, we had a customer that reached out to cancel their subscription, and they shot us a message on Instagram, and it was like, we'd like to cancel the subscription. And we always say, it's canceled. And then we say, by the way, is there any feedback? And the feedback we got was, it was actually a subscription for her mom who was in hospice care and used to have an Olipop every day. Towards the end of her life, it was something that was healthy and easy and a healthy way for her to indulge and feel that nostalgia and the fact that her mom passed away. And for us, it was so shocking, and humbling, B, to see that you can have an impact on somebody like that. But the flip side is, it's what happens next. So for us, right off the bat, we're like, how do we be really human about this? Instead of saying thank you, what can we put our money where our mouth is? And we sent a gorgeous bouquet of flowers, and that customer has been like part of our family ever since. But I think it's the next part. It's like, you can say you love customer experience, you can say you're a customer-centric brand, but do you put your money where your mouth is? And that's everything from like a moment like that where it touches you and you do what a human would do, and then it's also in a proactive way where something, there's a problem and an order doesn't get there. It's like, what do you do next? Do you tell the customer you're really sorry, or do you actually try to make a move towards it? And for us, that's been like, as a leader, it's so humbling for me to hire people that take the lead ahead of me with these situations where, a couple of weeks ago, we had somebody who ordered for a wedding, and we had a couple of mishaps, and it took 3 tries to get the perfect amount of Olipop, the perfect flavors. And we ended up, reshipping it and got it there. But then one of my teammates just was chatting with this customer and said, you've ordered Olipop for your wedding. It's clear you have really good taste. Would you mind sharing your wedding registry? And we ended up getting that registry, and we ordered a really kind gift. And it's like, it's just how you think about it and being able to put money behind it, and actually don't just talk customer centric, but be a person and be a human and do what you'd like others to do for you. And that's been like a crazy journey for us.
I love it. It really reminds me of course, Tony Hsieh. I remember when I was first coming up in this industry from Zappos, all these stories of Tony Hsieh and becoming like a call center for people. They'd call in and they'd find out where their nearest pizza joint was or whatever. Once they had them on the phone, it was just all about building relationships. What I keep hearing too is things that don't scale. Do things that you do because you feel that human connection. You act as though a human would act, which I think is a really really good point. And this is something else that you mentioned about like when you're communicating with people. I think the temptation is for your frontline people to be, speaking about your company as a we. We are doing this. But it sounds like the importance of using I is key there, just for making those real human relationships.
Yeah, I think that that's an interesting point you bring up, where if you interact with any brand, and I'm a pretty substantial D2C customer, and I constantly reach out to brands because I'm curious. And don't get it twisted, it's not going to be for my email address, but I do reach out to brands to try to get an idea of how they engage. And 99% of the time, it feels like a canned response. It feels like a response that they just click two buttons, and it's always, you know, number one, they view apology as weakness, right? So they will say, "Oh, it looks like UPS lost it. I'll reship it," instead of saying, "We are so sorry that there was an issue with the delivery," because they're worried that if they over apologize, and people are going to say, "Oh, it's your fault, not UPS." So that's number one. Number two is it's always we are so sorry for this, we are so sorry for that, versus, and we've tested this at Olipop multiple times, is like the second you shift it to like, "I am so sorry, I sincerely apologize, I know what it's like to order something you're so excited about and it takes 3 days more," the response shifts from, "Oh, screw this company, they're the worst, they don't care," to like, "Wow, I didn't expect that." And that's honestly been like the largest shift for us. On our customer effort score, we've stayed in the 90s since we started, and this is through quarter 4, where everyone was dealing with the same chaos around USPS and FedEx and UPS. Is like, instead of shifting that blame, we double down on like, we know how difficult it is with this season of just packages going all over the place. Seems like FedEx took this on a joyride, and just making light of it, but also like, here, we're reshipping it. And in the midst of all the chaos of all the other brands saying like, "Oh, wait a month while your product goes through Guam, Chicago, back to New York," we've reshipped it twice. And those couple of dollars there is what, these customers that came for the first time in quarter 4 have ordered 7 times since then.
What was the score you mentioned there? The 90%?
So yeah, so our customer effort score is essentially like, at when you ask customers, you'll say like, "It was super easy to get your issue resolved today. Strongly agree, strongly, disagree," and whatever else is in the middle of there. But essentially, 90 something percent of customers that reach out to us feel like they strongly agree that it's super easy to get their issue resolved. And from the psychology behind it, it's one of the stronger metrics in terms of making sure that people have a good experience, because it's essentially figuring out how seamless the experience is when everything hits the fan. So that's kind of the metric that we strongly, aside from MPS on the product side of things, on the experience, we're leveraging CES.
Nice. Uh, what do you view, you touched on something earlier about, the costs of customer acquisition are continuing to go up. We've got iOS 14.5 rolling out that's making us think, okay, our audiences won't be as robust as they were. What do you view as like the most important things that happen sort of, let's say, after purchase in order to make sure that person comes back?
Yeah. I think this is a fantastic question, and something that just about every brand, especially in D2C, is struggling with. And I mean, obviously, it's becoming harder and harder to reach customers and to reach the right people when you're looking at acquisition through Facebook. And I think that the interesting thing for us is that retention as a whole has always been like, how do we pay to win people back once they leave, versus how do we make sure that people are happy when they're here so that they stick around and we don't have to repurchase them again. And I think that as a general rule, we often look at experience and we say, is the product good? And what we fail to understand is that's not the only reason why customers repurchase. Customers look at your website experience, your expectation versus what they receive. They look at your shipping and delivery. They look at your time to respond to their email about whatever it is that they thought of asking while it's coming. And that's honestly, that's the one pillar, is like, make sure your entire experience is tight enough that people enjoy every single part of it and come back. And then the flip of that is people often think that, if the product is not somebody's favorite, then they'll never come back, and it's a nightmare. And with us, we honestly view it as like, if somebody doesn't like the product but they love everything else about your experience, and they tell you they don't like the product and you give them a full refund, when their friend says, "Hey, have you heard of Olipop?" They'll say, "Oh yeah, I actually don't love the actual drink, but maybe it wasn't my taste, but the experience was off the charts." So if you like a healthier alternative to soda, or if you like the flavors of your childhood but want something that's a little healthier, this is your thing. And we've seen that people that didn't like our product have brought people back into the fold. So that's really the game, is like, how do you create brand moments across from the people that absolutely adore you to the people that may have not had the best experience? How do you create moments that really, really pull more people in? And I think as marketers, we often struggle with things we can't measure, right? And it's like, if you can't measure it, is it happening? And something that we see is like, the little bit of, the first week I was here, I saw how much we're spending on Facebook ads, and I was like, wow, give me a tiny bit of that. Let's see what I can do on sending this stuff to, like, some of our biggest brand, some of our biggest brand loyalists. And the amount of buzz we got on Instagram was pretty wild. And I said, yeah, we can't necessarily measure the exact amount of people that somebody brought in, but we could know that as a human being, if you got a gorgeous plant from a brand you spent $50 at, you got to be crazy not to tell 10 people. And that's our vision on, like, how do we continuously double down, create moments that cause people to say, like, wow, this brand really cares.
Convert more traffic you're already paying for with Persosa. Discover how brands like WAG, Cumulus Networks, and Spiritual Gangster increase conversions over 50% in less than 2 weeks. Learn more at persosa.com. Love it. And these are like, those are moments above and beyond that you're creating, but all of the touch points that you have to have with your consumer, from confirmation emails to unboxing, all of these things, they're touch points that you have to have as an e-commerce shipper. So you might as well be thinking about, how can I create delight in these experiences?
I think yeah, and I think you bring up a very good point on, and this is funny. It's something I chatted with David, who's our co-founder. I chatted with him about it on my interview. Something that brands don't often think about enough is the time from the click order until you actually receive the order. And I think that's the most underutilized time in brand experience. And the vision I see is, a customer finds this gorgeous ad on Facebook. In our case, it's that beautiful pour shot on the ice, and the gorgeous colors, and just the beautiful imagery. And it says, 9 grams of fiber, only 2 to 5 grams of sugar, and you're like, holy moly, this is amazing. You click on that ad, you get to the site, you place that order, and then for so many brands, it's just radio silence for 10 days. And there's the confirmation number that's like straight out of the box, with no real anything to it. And then there's the shipping order, and then you have a FedEx delay, and then by the time you get it, it's like, that magic has already long disappeared. So that's like it. In retail, you think about experiences like, it's a nice can, it's on the shelf, you pick it up, you crack it open, you drink it, all within 5 minutes. You make that impulse decision, you purchase the product, you taste it outside, and you love it. With D2C, it's just, especially when you think about the more luxurious products, it's like, by the time you get it, the hype and the magic is so often over. So how do you keep people tied in? And I think it's everything from really, really, really good website experience to really, really good shipping and delivery, to getting in touch if something goes wrong, to providing a really good welcome flow. So it's all about that, perfect amount of not being really annoying, but also keeping people in the loop and keeping people excited and engaged.
Because when people make these D2C decisions online, there's a lot of psychology going on there. With a drink like yours, it could be like, okay, I'm gonna shift from pop. I'm gonna make a change in my life, or maybe it's just like I just love orange creamsicles, or I love their branding, I love their imagery. But there's that moment, there's real hype in that moment where you're clicking that button, you're making that purchase, and everything that you can do, yeah, not to lose that hype. By that, because sometimes you end up 2 weeks later, something will come, and you're like, oh yeah, I ordered that. That's great. But if you can kind of maintain that moment in people's minds that they've made this decision, they're anticipating when this product becomes part of their lives, you're going to win.
Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Can you talk a little bit about your customer experience stack? I know you do a lot in-house, but just technologically, what are you using to maintain these great experiences?
Yeah. That's a good question. We are actually super light on on tools and more believe that the operator of the tool matters more than the tool. We as far as like hiring, we are like super high on the empathy and going with the gut and putting people that hiring people that genuinely care about experience and empower them to execute. And then on the actual technology, we use Gorgeous for customer support, and we use Recharge for subscription. We obviously use Postscript for SMS, and we've recently started using a tool called Source Medium for data analysis. That's actually a brilliant one of the tools I'm really excited about now. It's just a one-stop shop to be able to pull any sort of data across Shopify, across Recharge, any analysis, cohort analysis, LTV, all the fun stuff that people like me generally aren't the data people, but being able to do that has been interesting.
Cool. I'll make sure to check that one out. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, and I think if anyone who's listening to this is not on D2C Twitter, it's one of the better communities that's out there. It's one of the best professional communities for D2C that I've seen anywhere. It's sure beats LinkedIn or Facebook or any of those places. And I'm recently following this a post that you made in March about your subscription program, basically that you doubled your number of subscribers in the last 100 days. Let's talk about the subscription platform. Like, first of all, are you able to say like, how, for your e-commerce business, which I know has grown a huge amount in the last little while, how many of those people are buying subscriptions? How many of those people are buying one-offs? And then what are you doing to transfer those people into the subscription tier?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I cannot share exactly the percentage, but I could say that when we started, we had a very small group of people buying subscription. And I think that most brands, when I think about a subscription, I think about is this a product that should be subscribed to? And that's not a question for the brand, that's a question for the consumer. Does a consumer want to subscribe to it? And the first component of that is this product replenishable? And then the second component is, are customers already buying monthly or biweekly or whatever it is? And then the question becomes is like, if they really want it, they're buying it anyway, then how do we, something I heard, I was talking to Val Geisler from Klaviyo yesterday, and she mentioned, subscriptions are very good for the brand because, there's the monthly recurring revenue, but they've never been great for customers. And I think that's like, that made me really think about the subscriptions from yesteryear, like the old school subscriptions where, it's a nightmare to get out. You have to call between 9 and 3, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You got to wait on hold for an hour to talk to somebody that should be selling used cars, but is actually a salesperson that's supposed to be helping you cancel, but is selling you on a discount. And it's like, that's the first thing. It's like, how do you remove any sort of friction from this experience to be able to elevate an experience of the person that wants to be super close to your brand? And I think for us, it was like, we sat down right when I joined in June of last year. We sat down and we were like, what is the dream subscription? Like, what does that entail? And for us, like, I thought about friction first. So the number one thing I think about is, we hate that it's difficult to leave, right? And the number two thing was like, we want to have a subscription that people don't get really stagnant, where they're like, oh, here's the same thing again, having it every 3 weeks. Like, give them the ability to try new things so they don't get bored of it. And the third thing was like, if somebody's subscribing, what's in it for them? Because it gets very expensive to have this product that often. And that was kind of our first foray at experience, was breaking down those walls. So for people having a difficult time swapping, we launched, I think we were one of the first brands that launched with electric SMS, which is now recharge SMS, which essentially, emails have always been sent to your inbox to tell you about your subscription upcoming in 3 days, but you get so much spam that you often miss that. So this is a text on your phone. It says, we're packing your orange cream. It should be out in 3 days. Would you like to swap, skip, cancel? And you just reply with the word. So you reply with cancel. Are you sure you'd like to cancel? Say yes. And you say yes, and you're out, and that's it. And if you want to move it, you say move or skip, and it'll get you your next order. So all these modifications, to be able to do it through text. You don't have to reach out to anyone. You don't have to talk to anyone. You can also obviously do it online. You can send us an email, but if you'd like to, it's super easy. And then the other thing was, like, it's our steepest discount with free shipping always. And then the third thing was, we optimize for people to switch, because for us, it's like, if you can find your forever flavor in the first couple of weeks, you'll be here for a while. So we've seen 70-something% of our customers that have been here for a couple of months have swapped, skipped at least once. So that's kind of like our first foray. And then the one thing I'd finally say is that most brands that I've spoken to in the subscription space will tell me, we offer these perks for our subscribers and they love it. And then you say, but how do you know they love it? Well, they are part of the Facebook group. And you're like, okay, but did you ask them? And the answer is usually, well, I don't know. So for us, it's like, we have done surveys. We ask on a quantitative and qualitative basis, as like, what do you want to see from a subscription program? And obviously, usually, you'll have a lot of people, I want a discount, and that's fair. But then, for us, we had a bunch of people that said, we love those stickers that you once made. So now every subscriber gets a sticker with every order. And for us, that I would have never guessed that that's the one thing that people go crazy for, but now that's like a huge thing for us. So continually ask people instead of deciding for them. And I say that's like the large success of our subscription order. But to answer the last question, we don't do what a lot of other brands do, which is like automatically set it to subscription when you hop on the site, because we find that that's optimizing for short-term wins versus people stick around for a long time. So you have to consciously go click that button, confirm you want it. And that's our vision across the line, is we want people to want to have that close relationship with our brand. And that's the decision they make, not a decision we make for them.
That's interesting. Even just that idea, and you were saying you're one of the first to market with Recharge doing this, where you're giving them, you're proactive. Like, I've heard a lot of people like proactive to when they're about to renew a subscription, to say, hey, we're packing this. Just want to make sure it's coming. Maybe here's a discount for a future down for your next month or something like that. But the fact that you're giving them that opportunity to cancel and front and center, do you find, like, do people do that? Like, I know you're in it for the long term, so swapping and maybe moving or other options are maybe what you're angling for. But did your cancellations go up initially when you gave people that option to cancel, sort of front and center?
So I'd say that the cancellations went up, but the resubscribes went up as well. So many of these people that you give them people that want to cancel a subscription, if they sign up for the first place, it's because they really like your product. So now putting up that gate really high is not going to make them stay longer. Giving them the flexibility to come and go as they wish is like, we don't mind if people cancel their subscription, because if they want to come back and get that same relationship / extra perks and benefits / early access to new flavors / discount, they'll come back in a month. And that doesn't, I'm not here for the metrics. I'm here for those relationships. So for somebody to cancel and then come back in 2 months is also okay with us. But I think that people feeling that flexibility, I'd say cancellation slightly went up. I'd say long-term, our subscription numbers went up 10x that. And I'd say our resubscribes went up as well. So creating that really, really flexible subscription is the future of subscription for sure.
I love it. And then what does your top of funnel look like for subscribers? It sounds like you're not, trying to shunt users into subscriptions right away when they come on the site. Is it a matter of, does it usually just come from people that make a first purchase and then through email or SMS, they're enticed to say, hey, do you want to make this official?
Yeah. So a couple of things. On the email side of things, if you order twice, after your second order, we'll say, like, we like where this is going, like, let's make this official. And then you'll have a couple of reasons, a couple of reasons why a subscription might be the right choice for you. And then on the tech side of things, it's if somebody orders more than 3 times, they'll get a text from us with a short description of what's going on our subscription side of things. And then I'd say we also do run Facebook ads at repeat purchasers. Pretty much, again, just explaining the benefits, and then finally we have a subscription page on our site that kind of really lays out that benefit. So I'd say what we've seen a lot of brands in this space do is take a product page, fully optimize it towards subscription so that you can hardly understand there is a single purchase way to order. You'll go through that page. It'll be auto selected on subscription, and it's kind of like a needle in a haystack to find that one-time order. And then another thing I've seen brands do where they'll say, like, we only accept a 6-month subscription because our product should only be used for 6 months, where it's like, that's like the SaaS model where, like, if you don't sign up for a year, you're not going to see results. And it's like, on a beverage, that's for a customer to decide. So that's kind of our vision broadly, is put it front and center, create the benefits that are strong enough for people to fall in love with it, but it's an option. It's not a requirement.
Nice. Can we talk a little bit about your e-commerce growth in general at Olipop? I know the company is not super old, and I know it was previous to this year largely retail focused.
Yeah.
And that talk a little bit about the explosion of e-commerce.
Yeah. So when I joined in June, which is almost a year ago, which is wild, we were about 95% retail. I'd say at the beginning of last year, we were about 500 stores. We started this year close to 5,500 stores, and retail, when I joined, retail was about 95%. We're slowly reaching, D2C was 5%. We're slowly reaching D2C more like 35-40%. So D2C has skyrocketed. We on the e-commerce side of things, we're up 4x in 2021, and again, close to 35-40% of revenue. I think there's a couple of things, like obviously COVID has been interesting for D2C brands, just people, not going out to shop and ordering it to their home. But I think the more interesting thing for us is, as we scale as a team, most brands that I was employee number 18, most brands, their 18th employee is not their director of CX. So Olipop has taken a very, very, very strong and deep approach on customer experience and creating those moments. Most brands have retention sitting under the marketing team. I'm leading on retention on the CX team. Most brands have SMS marketing on the marketing team. I'm leading on the SMS marketing. So there are a lot of things that we've taken a very, very customer-centric approach. And then I think that's been super impactful for our D2C, our D2C push. I will say that it's been a wild ride. I think that as a brand, like, that's mostly retail, we've learned really, really quickly, but it's been a phenomenal experience being there throughout that growth. And I think it honestly says a lot to the brand. I think David and Ben, who are our co-founders, have been very, very, very forward on allowing people to move fast and make mistakes as long as they learn from it and continue to grow. And we're now a pretty big D2C brand. So it's been phenomenal.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm just looking at your ads here. Not diet soda, better soda. I think the soda space is such an interesting one. I was just reading about Coca-Cola. They're going through some real internal strife right now. Their sales have dropped off for a long time. And whether you're drinking a Coke or a Diet Coke at this point, some people are going to look at you funny because either you're consuming too much sugar or you're too much aspartame or something like that. So this is a preface to ask you, I'm curious, who do you think of as your major competitors in this space? Are you thinking about big soda? Are you thinking more about, the brands that, for instance, we pitted you against in our deep dive?
100% big soda. We view Coke, Pepsi as the ones we're going up against. We are moving ridiculously fast, both in speed and agility. I think companies at our stage have the beauty of being able to quickly iterate. And I think we also have the ability to really, really leverage customer insights. so that when we make moves, we're making moves based on what our customers are asking for. And we honestly think that the future of soda is not, 38 or 39 grams of sugar and phosphoric acid or a bunch of aspartame. The future of soda is something that you drink that brings you back to your childhood nostalgic connection, but also has something to it. A new soda 2.0, something that has extra benefits that actually support your digestive health and things that are healthy for your microbiome. We think that that's the future. And as we continue to scale and move into new markets, we've seen a pretty astounding reception. Both, we started as an LA brand and we launched into markets like the Krogers of the world and the King Supers in Middle America and in the Southwest, Southeast, and it's been pretty astounding to see, soda drinkers, whether or not they continue to drink a couple of cans a week of soda, they're also drinking Olipop, or whether they drop soda and take Olipop. We've been pretty amazed at the reception so far.
Like the story of soda marketing in America and the US is it's like the story of marketing in a lot of ways.
Phenomenal.
It's just absolutely crazy. Like even just thinking about the fact that my corner store 2 blocks down the way has a Coca-Cola sign above it, and I know I actually watched a documentary one time about Coca-Cola in South America, which is a actually pretty gruesome tale of how much for lack of a better word, fuckery they were up to down there in order to dominate and to make sure that every single shop had a Coca-Cola sign on it or whatever. So what I'm always interested in meeting all these amazing D2C brands and founders and marketers that I get to meet is they're building companies that are kind of like, in a way, replacing these behemoths, and in so many ways they're doing it in ways that seem better for the consumer, better for the planet, and I'm really I feel positive about the kinds of D2C companies that are in this space and their ultimate impacts on making the world even just a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's awesome. I think that's something there are some things that Big Soda deeply understood very well, which is the nostalgia and the connection and the family and the moments and the time that you really want to enjoy an ice cold soda, and that's something we're definitely diving into as well. The flavors we choose, the advertising we do is really leveraging connection and family and nostalgia and all the fun stuff people had in their childhood. So
I love it. Nice. Okay. Time for our stock canned question, which is if we were to give you a 50K D2C grant within your department right now, within customer experience, where would you put that to see the biggest return?
Oh gosh. This is actually an easy one. I would quadruple down on the moments we're creating. I think that you think about organic traction, you think about a brand, like so many D2C brands, the second they shut off their Facebook ads, they're dead on arrival, and they're always optimizing for organic traction. I think the only way you can effectively, quote unquote, elevate organic traction is by creating moments and creating customer moments and creating an environment where people don't have to get paid by your brand to talk about your brand. And on the even on the Instagram side of things, I mean, we see a couple hundred people tagging us a day with on Olipop, and 99% of these people do not have official brand partnerships with us. So that's been like the moments that we create is something that I would 1,000% double down on and just keep creating brand moments.
And by that, that's things like buying your repeat purchasers a plant or something like that. That's what you mean by moments, like specifically those things that are sometimes difficult to scale but create these amazing connections.
Yes. I think that whether it's something that costs $65 or $27, I think people opening up a box and they ordered soda but they got 2 more things on the side is just something that really people don't expect from a brand, and those things just make people fall in love with the brand. I don't think it's necessarily scalable to a massive number, but I think that's the beauty of it, is customers can tell when you're doing something that's not scalable, and it means 10 times more. Like when you get that handwritten card from any company ever, that the moment that makes for you, it's because that they couldn't order 10,000 of those, and that's the beauty of non-scalable moments.
I love it. Pepsi's not reaching out to me anytime soon to ask how my gut biome is or anything like that. It's the beauty of D2C as well, right? Is it just creates these
Yep.
touch points and gives you that opportunity to build these relationships in ways that the big companies will just never be able to match.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay, so if people want to try Olipop, first of all, as got to get our affiliate link pumping. Go to drinkolipop.com and make sure you try out. What's your favorite flavor, by the way?
I'm an orange person, so I've at the moment we have our limited edition summer exclusive that's online and in Whole Foods, which is our orange cream, which kind of tastes like an orange creamsicle, like the ice cream you had growing up. But if that's no longer available, or if you don't see that in a store near you, I'm obsessed with the orange cream. I think that's the most refreshing and delicious beverage. So give that one a go. But we always say if you think about those flavors, look at them. The one you think you'll love most is generally the one. If you're a root beer person, you'll love our root beer. If you're a cola person, go grab that. If you're a fruity person, grab a strawberry vanilla and give it a go.
Nice. How do they stand up to mix? I'm just curious because I enjoy a Cuba Libre or a bourbon and Coke occasionally.
I'd say they mix phenomenally. My favorite mix is honestly the ginger lemon. It makes a wicked Moscow Mule. Just pour that in with a little bit of rum, a little bit of gin. What you choose your choose your fighter. But I think that's phenomenal. A vintage cola with a little bit of fun stuff never hurt. So
Love it. And if
can't go
people
wrong.
want to follow you, I would imagine you're going to direct them to your Twitter, which is at Eli Weiss with an extra S.
Three S's, correct.
What's the extra S for?
Just me not being able to find the account I wanted.
Okay, very cool. Nice. Okay, thanks for coming on today, Eli. I really appreciate it. We'll get this
It's
out
been
in a
such a
few weeks.
pleasure.
Yeah, anytime, man. We'll have to have you back, and we'd love to have you on as to write a blog post for us on customer experience. 'Cause I think you've probably got a lot to share with our audience.
Oh, I'd love that.
Okay, awesome. Cheers. Have a great day.